in COP21. That's going to have to be financed with a public-private sort of partnership. It can't all be done by governments. It can't all be done by the private sector. But actually, there is enough money in the private sector to finance this. And there is enough momentum behind this. And I agree with Doug. People working for HSBC really like the fact that we're one of the top 3 banks in the world that underwrite and distribute green bonds. And we've made this a big strategic initiative because they want to work for a firm that's kind of doing the right thing. And therefore, we have signed up to all the disclosure stuff around our own energy commitments, our own climate change commitments, etc. So actually, I am confident it works. I think, as I say, you'll get little bits of pockets where, from time to time, it appears difficult to do this. But to be honest with you, that's true at the start of every bond market I've ever been involved in opening up.
I think it's important to remember that the time horizon matters. If you're trying to deliver a quarter, you might not make a decision like this, but if you think about it over a year, 3 years, the capital related to HVAC equipment or solar or other things, the math becomes really clear.
Totally agree with what Doug is saying. We are responsible for our companies not only for the next quarter. We need to deliver the next quarter, but not only responsible for the next quarter, even stronger responsibility that our companies exist and do well in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. You must be really blind if you don't see in the world that we are at a tipping point and into a transition. Now, any change, any transition will have winners and losers. Now, the nice thing is you can choose right now whether you are in the category of the winners or the losers in the coming years. If you don't prepare yourself right now and find out in 5 or 10 years that indeed the world was transitioning and you didn't do anything, then most likely you belong to the losers. If you are in the chemical industry and you need carbon atoms to make your products in the future, then bio is one of the alternatives. If you don't invest in bio right now, you are making your future more difficult. And I think it is a free choice of companies. Basically, it should not be a free choice because you should work on it, preparing your company for the future. Companies cannot do it alone. We need the support also of Christiana and all her governance behind her, because like Doug knows better than I do, there are 2 people fighting tremendously with each other, and that are citizens and consumers. Those are the same people, by the way, but at different moments in time. The moment they are citizen or voter, etc., they want to have a new future, etc. The moment they turn into the shop, into a consumer, they said, well, let's postpone this citizenship to tomorrow and buy the cheapest product today.
We could be talking about organic food, couldn't we? We could be talking about organic food. People want responsibly resourced animals until they think, hang on, that pork is this price and this pork is this price plus 20% as well. That is a great point, isn't it? Citizens versus consumers. You must have that battle every single day.
We do, but if you think about the system and you plan long enough out, you can make changes to the system and help shape it, collaborating with others. And one of our changes in the company was to let universities and NGOs and other people influence us and use the assets that we have through their own thoughts and the way they work with us to engineer the product and the packaging so that those trade-offs are minimized or, best case, eliminated. We don't believe we're going to be able to launch a marketing campaign and convince people to pay 20% more, nor do we want to.
Correct.
But we can take a Band-Aid package from Johnson & Johnson and make it smaller. No one will notice, it's more efficient, the footprint goes down, and we sell just as many units. We can make all kinds of those decisions across our assortment.
Winners and losers. You talked about winners and losers as in winners is those who get on board the technological change, the renewable change. And I'm going to have to disagree with you all lot, by the way, because you're all agreeing with each other. So hence my role will be slightly different here. But Stuart, for the investor, there's going to be a lot of losers in various green bonds. In fact, like in these investments, I mean, whether it's dot-com bubble in 2000, whether it's building the trains, whether it's in the Industrial Revolution, whether it's the gold rush, there's an enormous amount of blind alleys, technology that won't work, technology that won't be able to compete with China as well. So we're asking people to spend billions and trillions of dollars, and yet a lot of it's not going to work. It's not going to pay off.
I wouldn't compare it to the sort of dot-com bubble and so on, but it's absolutely the case that there are high risks in innovative technology. But that's one of the great things that was coming out of COP21 is this notion of public-private partnership, because one of the problems of very long-dated financing, and particularly if you're doing it around, say, a power grid or you're doing it around renewable energy production, etc., is that during that period tariffs can change, legal risks can change. Over 25, 30 years, you're very, very exposed to the legal system, to, frankly, the populism that takes place around democratic elections. You find tariffs change, you find pricing changes, and that changes the dynamic of financial risk every bit as much as it was just the wrong technology in the first place. So there is a need, and this is why we do think that COP21 is historic, is you've got civil society, you've got business, and you've got governments all working together. Now, that doesn't mean that money won't get lost. There will be technologies that don't work, okay? But the risk that can be managed, which is kind of legal, political risk, etc., can all be dealt with by work between the multinational agencies, the World Bank, IFCs, etc. of the world, EBRD, EIB, and the private sector, and the UN and so on, to actually minimize the hedgeable risks. The risks you're not going to deal with or be able to take down, and that's kind of the way the capitalist model works, is some of the stuff just won't work, yeah? But there's a second series of risks that we can deal with, which weren't dealt with before COP21, which is if I come to you and say, look, I've got this ability to create electricity with a much lower carbon footprint, sign up for it for 40 years, but in the meantime, to your consumer point, 5 general elections later, the government decides that actually they're going to reduce the cost of electricity by 50% and wipe out those bondholders. That risk is being dealt with by the work that's coming out of COP21.
So a lot of it's going to lock consumers, Cristiano, as you come in on this one, a lot of it's going to lock consumers into higher prices.
Well, I've been sitting here as you've been talking and thinking. My father had a fantastic wisdom. He said, if things are going badly, continue in the battle. If things are going well, take another battle. And so I think we have agreed, and most enlightened leadership, no matter what sector, whether it's government, civil society, industry, whatever, banking, everybody has agreed, and you have heard it here, on the direction of travel, okay? So now what is the next battle? Because now we can say, okay, got it, right? Very good news, we have the direction of travel. Well, the next battle is speed of moving along that direction of travel. And everyone, you know, one of the strengths of Paris is that it actually, if you will, builds a very broad highway with many different lanes and allows every country, because those are the ones who sign up for it, to choose the lane of choice. Are you going to be in the slow lane? Are you going to be in the fast lane? You know, whatever. But we have a common direction of travel. The same thing is true for everyone else who participates in that. And I would say Walmart has been in the fast lane for a long time. Now, with Paris, my challenge here is, and how do you move from the fast lane to the even faster lane? What does it take to move even faster? What does it take to take, you know, these raw materials that you produce for down the value chain and actually move that farther? What does it take to de-risk the flow of capital? Because we are definitely moving in the right direction, but folks, we are not moving fast enough, you know. So I'm beginning to think of myself as a ticking clock, and it's very concerning to me, the fact that if we are going to get to a point of economic stability around the world, where we can all have the well-being, basic well-being and prosperity, then we need to get to global peaking over the next 5 to 10 years. How are we going to do that? So, you know, to come back to de-risking finance, which I think is one of the major levers, I would be really interested to know, how do we de-risk that? Do we need to have either a collective effort, a facility that everybody puts in some capital into, that actually acts to de-risk the capital flows that then go into the major investments? Does that need to be decentralized? How do we deal with the risk? Because sometimes it's perceived risk, sometimes it's real risk. What can we do to really effectively de-risk the flows of capitals? Because we know 90 trillion, but they've got to be put down this one path. What do we do?
I think we've all been asked the challenge. Do you want to start off on that challenge? What can you do to move back to the fastest part of the fast lane, Doug?
Yeah, two things came to mind. One is, in addition to speed, breadth. Where do we work? What drives the result, the outcome the most? We're working on everything from agriculture with small and large suppliers to the way factories use energy. The number of things we're working on is this broad, and sometimes we worry we can get diffused. Are we doing what's most important? If we're focused on the most important things, we will be able to move faster. The other one is the role of data. There's an opportunity in front of us to better understand which factories are most productive as it relates to the issues we're discussing here. We want to do business with those that practice the right employment practices. We want to do business with people who don't introduce toxins into products or dump things into a river. Data today, with the role of sensors and how the internet and mobile and other things can impact this, may give us a better shot at progress and optimization and ultimately speed than we've been able to take advantage of in the past.
So there is a technological solution to part of the question that Christiana's asking.
I believe so. There's an opportunity to optimize the supply chain in a way that includes all costs. True cost is what we've been calling it recently. There is a cost for water. There is a cost related to people and how they're treated as they work. Are they paid overtime, etc. And if you had perfect visibility into that data, you'd make better choices. And that's possible, and I believe that will increase speed.
Lucky.
Yeah, to add to the points Doug made, I would like to add, of course, innovation. I think the new technologies, new innovations make it possible to make this transition. But we addressed already the point that some of the new innovations are not yet fully competitive. And we need to get also a help from governments, with the price on carbon, etc., to make, if you want to
From citizens, yeah?
If you want,
from consumers.
At the end...
it's not the governments who are going to pay, Feike, it's me. It's you lot, isn't it?
For your children and your own future and your own best film.
We're already paying for these expensive wind farms off the coast of Margate. I'm paying for these expensive solar panels that are not competitive in some cases.
Well, when we opened our second generation biofuel factory, that was in the ancient time, 14, 15 months ago, when the oil price was over 100, and people said, at what reference point you took to be competitive? I said, we calculate with $70 per barrel. And at that moment, it was only 16 months ago, people said, chicken at $70 per barrel. You will always be competitive then, because the oil price will always be above $70.
Yeah, about that.
But that was ancient history 14 months ago. But I think we will be helped in this system change. Correct me when I'm wrong, Christiana. But all the national plans, and the great thing of the national plans is they are bottom up. So if they don't implement, they lose their own credibility as a government. All the plans together gives us to 2.8 degrees Celsius increase. So not yet to the 1.5.
Better than where we were.
Better than where we were.
But not yet there.
We also said we review it in 5 years.
Yeah.
So my hunch is...
We did get to that, didn't we? Because there were certain parties who didn't want the 5-year review. So we got that one.
It's done.
Okay,
right.
Even those parties in the emerging world.
What happens in 5
Unanimous.
years? In 5 years we will review it. Most likely we will not see that all intended national plans were being executed. And so hopefully we are around this 2.8 or a little bit less. At the same moment, the same people in Paris have said, but we should be at 1.5. So I guess within 5 years, we make up the balance what we did. We said, great Paris, great transition point, but not good enough. Not good enough. We are not meeting our own targets.
Exactly.
And the discussion will be within 5 years. Hey guys, what else are we going to do? Because we're not meeting our own targets. Price on carbon will come. Other system changes will come. Brings me back. This will happen within 5 years. I bet, please tape it. Within 5 years we have that discussion. If you don't prepare yourself now as a company, you will
We're taping the whole thing, Feike. Everything you say, we're going to throw back at you in 6 months to a year to 5 years.
5 years, I said. Huh?
All right.
Actually,
You will
the
be
good
around.
news is that date has been set, 2018. So 3, and then from there on, it goes in a
great.
5-year period. So the first conversation that we're going to have invited by Feike is 2018.
All right. Stuart, this de-risking of capital. Feike's mentioned the carbon price. We can come back to the carbon price next. We'll do that, I promise. But in terms of this fund or money coming together, pools of money. Is there any progress on that front of people putting money in together so that some of the risks are negated?
Look, I think there is momentum. I think there's tremendous momentum from across the financial services industry, whether it's banks as underwriters and distributors,